Hey everybody, it's Dave Schmittou here, and welcome to a preview of Bold Humility. I get asked an awful lot about bold humility and what in the world the concept is all about. And I guess the best way I can describe it is it's the ability to boldly proclaim what you know and the humility to admit your defeats and your mistakes. So I'm a school leader, and I'm a school leader by title. I'm a school leader who has been at it for now 20 years. I started off as a classroom teacher, worked my way to an assistant principal in multiple states, multiple buildings. Now I work in the central office. And I would love to sit here and tell you that I have all of the answers. I'd love to sit here and just tell you that I've made it by going out there and killing it every day, and my hard work being recognized, and just having success built upon success. But the truth of the matter, the reality of the matter is, I'm actually where I am in spite of myself, despite a lot of my weaknesses, despite a lot of my flaws and my mistakes. The hope behind Bold Humility is to give each of you the courage to step up and admit your vulnerabilities, admit your weaknesses, so that you can grow and so that you can thrive. The concept is really designed around school leaders so that we don't have to feel like we have to have all of the answers, so that we can empower our teachers to make the decisions that matter most. Because ultimately, they're the ones that change destinies. Our job is to stand behind them. For too long, I stood up thinking that it was all about me, that the leader by title was the one that mattered. I wanted the spotlight on me. I wanted to have the microphone in my hand. And as a result, I made a lot of mistakes. So I hope Bold Humility speaks to you as we go through this journey and explore how to truly empower student learning by empowering our teachers. Bold Humility, it's being endorsed by a lot of people in a lot of places. But again, I don't want this to be about me. So I don't know how that even got in here. I'm a true believer that vulnerability is the centerpiece for true leadership. I've heard before that the leader that admits his mistakes is actually admitting nothing new to anybody other than himself. Oftentimes, those that we lead see our weaknesses, they see our flaws, and when we try to hide them, all we're doing is putting on our own mask. We're the only ones that think we're concealing our weaknesses. Sometimes just owning them, admitting where your shortcomings are, is the best way to actually establish credibility. In this journey, I don't want anybody to think that I have the answers. Do not look at me like what I'm about to say is the silver bullet or the magic pill. I'm on this journey right alongside of everybody else. I'm simply trying to grow and trying to be real, and trying to help inform you so that you can in turn inform the kids in your school and in your system. I want you to understand that leadership is oftentimes just simply about starting the conversation. I think too often in schools, we have a set of taboo topics that we don't like to discuss because they can become uncomfortable, and we begin to feel like our job is to make everything hunky-dory, make everything just peaceful all the time. And I've also heard at the same time that schools call themselves families, that they describe themselves as a family environment. That's what they want their culture to feel like. Well, families have disagreements. Families have conversations. Families have interventions. Families oftentimes sit around the dinner table and have very real conversations. In schools, let's get ourselves to the point where taboo topics no longer exist, so we can truly change the conversation for kids. Oh, another endorsement. I have no idea how that got in there. I'm so sorry. So Bold Humility, where does it come from? Well, some of you have seen this viral Facebook post from June 13th, 2019. It's written by a woman named Jessica Gentry, and Jessica has actually grown into be a really good friend of mine. I interviewed her on my podcast, and I talk to her almost daily. Jessica is absolutely incredible. So what is this post all about? Well, to sum it up, Jessica was a classroom teacher for more than a decade. She taught kindergarten to amazing kids, and she absolutely loved her job. But this summer, she decided to walk away. She decided that the profession just wasn't what she signed up for anymore. She decided that her hands were tied too often. She was caught up in drama without real support. She was not encouraged to be innovative and to truly engage and empower kids. So she set off on her own course, where she could do it herself. Jessica's story became viral, not because it was an outlier, but because Jessica became the voice for many other teachers. This story is all too common in America today as we face teacher shortage. As we struggle to maintain quality instruction in classrooms, oftentimes we shoot ourselves in the foot and we end up ostracizing and pushing out those teachers that we need the most. Carrie Underwood, thank you for this endorsement, but again, it's not about me. What we need to do is we need to embrace the idea that teachers are elephants. Not that they're huge and they're large, but elephants are powerful. Some of us have heard the story of how circus elephants are trained. When circus elephants are brought up in captivity as small young elephants, they are tied by a rope to a small stake, so that the elephants, as they grow, begin to believe that they can only move in a short circumference around this stake. They begin to believe that's their entire world. As they grow, as they develop, as they increase in strength, they continue to believe that that's their entire world. I'm a believer that far too often we treat our new young teachers the same way that circus elephants are treated. We take these new young teachers and we put them in a box. And we say, here's how we do things here. Play by our rules. Follow this schedule using this curriculum, using this resource. Stay within the time constraints. Follow the pacing. Follow my rules. Do things the way that I did. And we begin to train our teachers to believe that that is their entire world. At the same time, we tell our teachers that they're strong, that they're powerful, that they're the ones that matter. But we take away their power and we tie them to the rope. My goal, through bold humility, is to allow leaders to get out of the way so that teachers can stand up, begin to embrace their power, and truly become those change agents that we talk about all too often. So let me tell you about my story. Who am I and where do I come from? Well, first and foremost, I'm the father of 4 amazing kids. Cameron, who's in middle school this year, 8th grade, starting high school soon. I've got Reagan, an 8-year-old little girl. I've got Caden, a 6-year-old little boy, and Mason, a 4-year-old little boy. I said that I grew up, I started my career as a classroom teacher, was a middle school teacher for 7 years. I was an assistant principal and a principal. Moved to Florida to work in turnaround districts, and then came back here to Michigan where I started my career. I have the opportunity to speak quite a bit, to travel quite a bit, to write quite a bit. Luckily, I've worked with some amazing people that have allowed some cool little certificates to be placed on my wall, and I run quite a bit. All of those elements are going to be important for you to understand as we progress in this journey, because knowing who I am as a person will both come into play in some of the examples and the stories that I tell, but also in your understanding me as a professional. One thing I think is extremely important for us to recognize is that who you are is who they'll be, and what you do is what they'll do. That's true if you are a school leader, talking about the teachers that you work with and work for. It's true if you're a teacher, talking about the students that you work with and work for. It's also true if you're a parent, talking about the kids whose lives you shape and inform. All of us live our life on the catwalk. We're models. People are looking to us to say, what's appropriate? What can I do? What should I do? Because they're looking for our guidance, and they will follow our lead. They'll follow our example, just as this picture illustrates. You know, I love these pictures because it shows me my power, my influence, and not because of the fact that I'm powerful and influential, but because I think this is the reality for all of us. People want to follow our lead, and they'll do things that they see us doing. If you're a leader, do you set your teachers up for success by modeling quality instruction? Do you show them what quality instruction looks like? Do you show what real relationships looks like? Are you authentic? Are you vulnerable? Or is it a do as I say, not as I do mindset? Just like as a parent, you know that telling your child what to do only goes so far if they see you living a life that's completely contrary to that. It's important that we recognize our power and influence is well beyond our words. You know, I use this example all the time. Yeah, it's important for us to make sure that we are teaching depth and breadth. We're getting our kids to think at a higher level. It's important, administrators, that we get our teachers to do the same thing. teachers, it's important that if we tell our students that this is important, that we actually empower our students to recognize it. I write on here, we call it cheating when students copy the ideas of their peers, yet we give those same students an A when they copy the ideas of their teacher. We can't tell students that cheating is wrong, and then we just expect them to cheat off of us. Just copy down my words, do everything that I say, and you'll be successful. Leaders, the same thing is true. Your teachers should not be expected to be a mirror image of who you were in your classroom back when it worked for your students multiple years ago. If you truly want to engage and inspire and empower, allow people to be themselves, allow people to take it further, and do not expect people to be copycats. It's no wonder that sites like Teacher By Teacher and Pinterest are all the rave these days, as people simply look to copy something that worked for somebody else. It's important that we truly encourage and inspire each other to think outside of the box and to do things that are true and real to us. I ask this question often. Are we preparing students for your past or for their future? As teachers, we are amazing at creating the next generation of teachers. We reward those kids who play school well and that follow our model and follow our example. We think through the lens of, it worked for me when I was in school, and look at me, I'm successful. So students, if you want to be successful just like me, do things the way that I would do them. Remember, we are all in education. We became educators by doing things the way that we did them. Unless we're simply trying to prepare the next generation of teachers, we might want to allow others to do things in their own way, in their own unique way. We need to prepare students for their future. And I'm not going to cite the stats about all of the jobs that don't exist now that will exist when our students graduate. We know all of that. But instead, we need to focus on the things that truly matter more. Relationships, character, those skills that are eternal. Leaders, you need to work to be more knowable than knowledgeable. Make sure that you are modeling the example of being a relationship builder, being a culture builder, and forming authentic relationships. And here's a challenge for you, so you can see if you're really doing this. If you're a building administrator, if you're a central office administrator, I want you to imagine that you have in front of you a list of all of the staff that work with you. Whether it's all of your teachers, all of your parapros, all of your custodians, any list you want. Maybe you just want to simplify it and say, I'm just going to pick any 10. If you're a classroom teacher, I want you to just grab your first hour, your roster of students. You know, if you're a middle school or high school teacher, you don't need to grab all 150. Just grab 15 to 20. If you're an elementary teacher, just grab the kids that come to you at the beginning of the day. And I want you to ask yourself, of all of those people on the list, how many of those people could you buy a genuine, unique, authentic birthday present for? How many of those people on that list do you know well enough that you could get them something that was meaningful? I'm not talking about a generic Amazon card. I'm not talking about the Jelly of the Month Club. I'm not talking about something that you could apply to anybody and everybody. I mean something specific that shows you know that person. Because if you cannot do it, it tells me that you're probably not working to be noble and to know them well enough. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy these presents. That's not the game we're playing here. The question is, do you know them well enough to be able to do that? Relationships are built off of trust. When you have trust, you encourage risk-taking. Without risk-taking, there's not going to be a need for any feedback. Without feedback, there's no growth. It's a sequential order. In order for these things to happen, if you want growth to take place, you have to have an authentic and real relationship built off of trust that allows people to take risks. There's no point in having feedback if a risk isn't taken. Otherwise, the results are already known. You have to know the people that you work for and the people that you work with and the people that work for you. You can have control or you can have growth. You can't have both. It's really that simple. Are you somebody that says, do things my way, you'll work for me? Or are you somebody that says, I want to grow you because I value you as a person? Leaders, again, spend more time connecting, less time correcting. At the start of every day, if you expect your teachers to meet and greet students in the hall, meet and greet your teachers in the hall, in the parking lot. Spend your time doing what matters most. Now, this presentation could go on for another hour, and if you ever see me live and in person, you'll get that opportunity. But I'm going to stop it here today so you can think and reflect about what matters most to your school, to your community, and to the people you work with. Have an amazing day.